Route down the main street, Harvey Normal, was it? Straight in. 139.
I saw an eBay at 25.
Good morning, councillors, staff,
Good morning,
members of the gallery. I'd like to declare the meeting open. Federation Council wishes to advise members of the public that council meetings will be recorded and available after each meeting on the council's website. All care will be taken to maintain privacy to those in attendance. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the public gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event your image is broadcast. Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting today, the Bangarang people, and acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people who now reside in the area. I extend that respect to elders past, present of the Bangarang nations. Thank you. I'll now call for any apologies. Councillor Kennedy, is there apology? Yes. Okay. Would someone like to move that apology, please? Moved by Councillor Longman, seconded by Councillor Neagle. All in favour? Against, carried. Notification of pecuniary conflicts of interest in business items. Haven't received any, none. Thank you. Confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Would someone like to confirm those minutes, please? Thank you, Councillor Wales, seconded Councillor Law. All in favour? Against, carried. And confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting on the 17th of July 2018. That was, I'm sorry, I've got one. Item 3.1 and 3. Okay. Merrill Minute, there's a couple items. 4.1, Norm Proven, Rugby Immortal, and Yanko Creek possible reduced flow. There's a recommendation there, councillors. Anyone's free to comment, but the recommendation that the Merrill Minute reports 4.1, Norm Proven, Rugby Immortal, and 4.2, Yanko Creek possible flow to be noted and actions endorsed. Endorsed by Councillor Neagle, seconded by Councillor Thomas. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Now I'll ask the General Manager for his... Oh, sorry, Councillor Thomas.
I've got a comment.
I'm sorry, I should have given you an opportunity.
It's to do with the Yanko in their proposal, they're pulling together for the Yanko and that creek system.
Yes.
I just think it's really important that the ACTACA actually are made aware, and I actually clicked into that link and had a really good link at the website, the Landcare website associated with that proposal. And I couldn't read anywhere, and it really needs to be noted that for Groundwater Management Area 016, which Federation sits in, that creek system actually forms the northern boundary for our groundwater management system. So that needs to be noted, and also the hydrological connections between the two as well. They haven't been considered as yet. If you can make note of that, that would be great.
Absolutely. It actually services the Riverina Waters branch of that Clybo Creek as well. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I'll now ask the General Manager report.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillors, report 5.1 is a report on the merger implementation plan and stronger communities end of financial year report. The recommendation there is that Council note the report on the merger implementation plan and the stronger communities with the progress to the end of June 2018. I won't talk to a lot of these reports, but just a quick comment. There's been a really huge effort by the staff in preparing all the programs, projects and strategies that have gone into producing the council. So I just wanted to commend the staff and their commitment to ensuring the success of the joint entities. Really strong report was sent to government as required to outline where the expenditure's up to in the project delivery. So I just want to make that on the record. Thank you.
So moved. Moved by Councillor Longline, seconded by Councillor Neagle. Any comments, councillors? Councillor Neagle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, just to support the General Manager's comments, I don't know that the public have been fully aware of the amount of work that has been undertaken over the last 2 years at Federation Council, and to see, even though that's just the numbers, I don't think it fully reflects the amount of work and time and effort that's been put on by the staff, in addition to business as usual, which is what everybody judges the council on. So just to pass on the council, on behalf of the councillors, the thanks and appreciation to the staff for their efforts, because we at least appreciate they've been under the pump for a long time to try and get the merger together. And from my understanding, Mr Butler, we're one of the better proceeded, or ago, so it's a real feather in our cap and a feather to the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Meagle. Any further councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried.
5.2, Mr Mayor, is the draft model code of conduct coming back to council with a recommendation there for adoption. So that's been out on exhibition and recommendations there to council. We haven't had any submissions on that one.
Moved by councillor Meagle, seconded by councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments? Not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried.
5.3, the draft code of meeting practice, again coming back off exhibitions, recommendation there for council to adopt the draft code of meeting practice as tabled. There is a couple of little tweaks we've done since exhibition, just around reflecting our policy and briefing sessions that the council have endorsed. No submissions received, and the report generally tables it as exhibited other than those changes.
Moved by councillor Longley, seconded by councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillor? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried.
5.4 is a periodic report on the council's operational plan, December 2017 to 30 June 2018. So that goes towards councillor Meagle's comments about the business as usual, I guess, the council. That brings an end to the reporting under the previous delivery program and operational plan, because we're now in the middle of we've commenced a new one. So recommendation to note the report, and that the report be made available on our website, and a copy provided at each of our customer service centres.
Thank you. Moved by councillor Whitechurch and seconded by councillor Thomas, I think. Any questions or comments? Councillor Thomas?
I just wanted to make note of one of them in that report. It talked about water security, and I think water security has actually become a really relevant issue at the moment. And it's, you know, it talked about advocates for long-term water security for our agricultural sector. And I'm not really sure if this is the place to bring it up, but I would really like for us to actually explore our options, considering the updated funding arrangements that came through from the federal government on Sunday, the announcement. Unfortunately, there was 60 local government areas who are going to receive further funding to pull together strategies for water security. Unfortunately, none of those 60 are in the local government areas of the Riverina. So I'd actually like to move forward, and actually maybe through the JO that we can talk about, put pressure on our state and federal governments to look at forming some funding arrangements for, especially maybe for our rural towns as we go on with these, you know, these very unseasonal conditions. You don't have to go very far north or west, and it's encroaching, and it is coming. So I think the pressure needs to be there. So whether that's through a motion or a letter of support, or, you know, next time you have representation with the JO, you know, you could go back to the federal government and actually say, why was there no local government areas, you know, appointed from that latest upgrade of the funding that came through on Sunday. Yeah.
Probably a good point, just before Councillor Longmire, in report 5.7, we could talk on that with the Murray-Darling Association report.
Yeah.
On water. Excellent. Councillor Longmire.
Councillor Longmire, did you want?
Yeah, no, I support the indication that Councillor Thomas has made mention of, because everything she said is right in what we're looking at.
Absolutely. Thank you. If there's nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried.
Report 5.5 is a report on the draft delegations of authority from the council to the mayor and general manager. So again, a standard document that comes back to council to reflect the delegations that council specifically gives to the mayor, and more so general manager, who then delegates down through the staff structure. Recommendation there is to adopt the revised delegation of authority from council to the mayor and GM. Just calling out the main recommendation within the document is to the threshold for tenders that is allowable in the Local Government Act for the general manager to accept is 500,000 maximum. We're recommending 250,000, and anything above that would go to council.
Moved by councillor Meagle, seconded by councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried.
Report 5.6, Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference 2018 in Albury this year on the 21st of October to the 23rd of October. So recommendation there is to note the report on the 2018 Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference. Councillors Law, Longmire, Longley, Kennedy, Thomas, Meagle and Wales be authorised to attend the conference, along with the General Manager, Mayor and Deputy. Point 3 there just comes out of our briefing session and just goes into allowing the General Manager in consultation with their Mayor and Deputies, the voting delegates, to finalise a couple of motions, and that was around sustainable waste solutions for the region, and energy alternatives as well. So, consideration of council there.
Okay, could I move? Thank you, Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Neagle. Any questions or comments? Councillor Thomas.
After our workshop the other day, I was just really thinking about pulling together a motion to move forward to the local government conference, and I was just thinking about awareness programs, and maybe we could look at, especially with our waterways, because we're actually sitting right on the Murray River, and also, you know, other local governments sitting over the Murrumbidgee, you know, some really significant waterways and rubbish, and that was really highlighted when the lake was down and the amount of rubbish that was in the lake. I'm not really sure whose responsibility it should have been to clean up the rubbish in the lake and whether it was achievable, but it was really noticeable. So I was looking at possibly, you know, pulling together a motion that actually talked about our waterways and, you know, reviving our waterways and reducing the amount of especially hard rubbish pollution that is occurring in our waterways. It was just a suggestion.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Would you like to make a comment?
Well, no, that's what you said.
That's fine.
That very issue is one of the ones that I'm grappling with in the Waste Management Issues paper for our strategy. So once we get that paper finalised, probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll be able to roll it forward, and that very issue is part of what we're looking at.
Thank you.
Yeah, so would you agree that we could add a few more words to that point 3, Councillor Thomas, to then frame up a motion off the back of that?
That would be brilliant if we could, because I know we're thinking about our rubbish that appears on the ground, but we're actually not considering the rubbish that's actually appearing in our waterways.
Yep.
That it was really, really evident when the lake was down, and I'm sure our other waterways probably, you know, have similar situations that we just don't see them because they're either going to become dry, you know, because of natural water courses not being there anymore, or they're regulated and they've always got water in them.
So perhaps, Rochelle, we could add point 4, that a motion be submitted to the annual conference regarding the issue of items from the waste stream entering our waterways. Is that something we
Yeah.
we could frame it up and
Yeah, we'll have to work on it. It'll be work in progress.
Yep. Yeah, the waterways. Yep. Is the mover and seconder happy with that one?
Okay, well, I'll put it all in favour. Against? Carried.
5.7 is a recommendation. It's the Murray-Darling Association Strategic Advisory Subcommittee, so a new group being formed, and recommendation there that the General Manager be authorised to be a member of the Murray-Darling Basin Authority Strategic Advisory. That's not right, Murray. Take Basin out. Murray-Darling Authority, sorry. Yep. Take out the word
Association
basin.
or authority, Mr. Bain?
Just got to lose the word basin in that one, yep. Murray-Darling Association, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Heading was right.
We've got that. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Longley, moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against? Carried.
5.8 is another policy, provision of expenses and facilities for the Mayor and Councillors policy. Again, coming back off exhibition, there were no submissions in relation to that one, so recommendation is for adoption as per exhibition.
Moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against? Carried.
5.9 is just a little update report there on the meeting day today, so being aware that we have a morning tea break at 10:30 and we'll be doing Australian citizenship ceremony for 2 who will be new citizens, which is a great thing. And then 11:30 a.m. signing ceremony with our sister city, Miki City from Japan, and then a welcome function at lunchtime. So that's the end of my report. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And now I'll ask the Director of Corporate and Community Services for his report. I'm sorry.
Thank you, and that's okay.
Go for it.
6.1 is the public art policy, which has been on public display with no submissions, and and we've recommended now that council adopts that.
Okay, moved by councillor Law and seconded by councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I will put it. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried.
6.2, following the adoption of the Ageing Well strategy, we have presented the terms of reference for the Ageing Well Committee, and we're recommending that council adopt those to allow the committee to commence.
Moved by councillor Longley, seconded by councillor Law. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favour? Against, carried.
Thank you. 6.3 is a report in relation to this year's Australia Day Award, and we've recommended there that we open the expression of interest process from the 22nd of August to the 10th of September, calling for community groups in Mulwala to work with us to host the Australia Day ceremony this year. Then also council calls for nominations from the community for Australia Day Awards, commencing from the 15th of October to the 3rd of December, and that council also appoint a committee of a judging panel to assess the nominations. And so I've recommended that we nominate 4 councillors, the general manager and a member of staff for that committee. So hoping for some nominations.
Thank you. Councillor Longley.
I'd like to nominate.
You'd like to nominate? Councillor Wales, Councillor Whitechurch, Councillor Thomas. There's 4. And I'm sure that, yeah, we're right. And if there's any more needed, there'll be plenty offers there. So
Great.
that's great.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll move that. Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Thomas. A comment, Councillor Wales?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say these are very important for our community, and I just hope we get plenty of nominations so we can have a good choice of good people.
For sure. And Councillor Thomas, did you?
Well, the Mulwala community is very excited and very much looking forward to hosting the 2019 event. Obviously, I've been engaging with them and getting some ideas and putting together some strategies, so that's really good. So I actually think your expression of interest process will be quite strong from that community. I have suggested to Amber Harvey, who's coordinating a council perspective, that they actually hold an information session in Mulwala to actually bring together. I think if you end up with a lot of expressions of interest, that everyone can have some form of input. And the other important thing is that I've also mentioned to her that we can make a connection with Savernake, because Savernake, the School of Arts Hall, for the last 8 years have hosted a breakfast at Savernake, and I think it's a perfect opportunity, especially for our counterparts coming down from the north, to attend in Mulwala. They could call into Savernake and have breakfast and then come down to Mulwala. So I just really want to make that connection and flag it with everybody.
Excellent. Okay, if there's any more, any other questions or comments, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Thank you. Thanks for your feedback, Councillor Thomas. We'll definitely consider that. 6.4 is our public interest disclosures policy, which was reviewed, and some minor updates in accordance with legislation, and have recommended that council adopt that policy. And they also note that we submitted our public interest disclosure report as required for the last 6 months period.
Okay, thank you. So can we have the member councillors, please? Moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor Neagle. Any questions? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
6.5 is the Section 355 committees. We have placed on public display the policy and the guidelines. We haven't had any feedback at this point, so we're recommending that council adopt the policy, but note the Section 355 guidelines. Staff has commenced working with all of the committees. And we are expecting that we will receive feedback as part of that process. So that document is something that may evolve, and we'll work with those committees.
Moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor Longmire. Any questions or comments? Councillor Whitechurch.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just with the 355 policy, I did bring up one council meeting prior, and it was in relation to the expenditure and tender process for 355 committees. And I'll use the example of the Festival of Dance, where they get the same bands year in, year out, but the policy asks for 2 or 3 tenders, whatever it may be. it's not just that committee that this happens to. There's ongoing, reoccurring expenditure for some of these events, and I think that would need to be addressed so that if they are going to get a same band, that we don't insist that they go and get 2 other quotes because they simply want that same band or that same food van or whatever it may be. So I think that when we look at that policy, maybe that needs to be part of it to be addressed.
Yeah, exactly. If you get a good performer, you want to stick with it. All right, so anything further on that? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
6.6 is a recommendation in relation to the Howell Men's shed lease that we provide a licence for a further 2 years, 9 to 11 Gibson Place.
Can I move the councillors, please? Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
And 6.7 is recommendation in relation to a request from the Corrigan City Bowls Club, who are wishing to sublease the building here. The lease doesn't currently commit it, so we've recommended there that council allow the sublease, but with a new lease would need to be drawn up, and I've included there that that would include the club paying for all of their utility charges. I believe, that may mean that the club won't proceed with that sublease, it just won't be viable for them. But the basis of that recommendation is to ensure some consistency with how we're supporting all other clubs generally throughout the council area. So, recommendation there.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Comment, Councillor Longmire?
Yeah. Actually, it's a pretty emotional sort of a situation, this. I was confronted after the football on Saturday evening by a very vocal member of the Civic Bowls Club. And, yeah, how can I say it other than the fact that it wasn't only his mouth, there was a certain intent in the descriptive of what we're doing to the community in regard to putting this lease or renewing the lease under the circumstances or the conditions that are identified. So I support, as I did at the workshop, the policy and resource meeting, where we are and what we're doing, because I'm not sure whether they've had a good look at the intentionality, whether there's a business case there or not, I don't know. But I know in the first instance when the conditions were allowed to go forward for the Civic Bowls Club, when I was able to be part of that opportunity, they presented a very, very good business case at that first instance for the club to survive and go forward. Where it's grown to is a credit to them, but I think in negotiations with them in the lease opportunity, that needs to be respected where they are with the latest report that says about their AGM financials. And so I think some of that can be flexible in going forward, but certainly if we're going to be consistent across the Shire in regard to utility charges, this is just one of them. So that, what I'm saying is that they got a good start at the commencement of their opportunity. So, going forward, no one's trying to be the big stick in this situation. We just want to make sure that they've got a good start, they're up and about, and a credit to them. But what needs to be looked at here is some business projects in regard to a business plan, so that everybody knows where they're off to.
Excellent. Councillor Moore, Councillor Whitechurch.
To me, just in relation to the recommendation, item 2 is that the council fund and cost a separate electricity meter to be installed. In light of the report given by Ms Kay, it's possible that the bowling club wouldn't take up a new lease or an amended lease, given the trading figures that they're presenting or through their annual report. If we were to go push through with this recommendation, is the council still going to install an electricity meter as part of the Bowls Club facility? I guess as part 2 to that is so that we do know what costs it is costing the Civic Centre.
Yeah, good point. And I totally agree with Councillor Longmire's comments that we understand that it will be tough going forward, but no doubt council will do whatever it can to support the continuation of the bowls and try and make grow and make it a better business, however we do that. So if there's nothing further, I'll put it, councillor.
Just clarifying that I do believe that we should still install a separate electricity meter. One of the great challenges for the club is that the building is not energy efficient, so if we do that, and it's a challenge in terms of the outside capital cost, we've said it's probably $10,000. But then, we're trying to work towards some improvements that if in the future, their lease has got another right of another 3 years, if in the future when we're renewing that and moving in this direction, hopefully we'll have had some upgrades, i.e. air conditioning and insulation and ceiling that might help us, or help them be more viable in terms of those operating costs, and we will be able to monitor that if we have any doubts there.
And obviously a business plan that might incorporate other opportunities within that venue. Councillor
I've got earlier, Mr Mayor, if I may, direct a question to Ms Kay in regard to one of the explanations to me on Saturday after the footy was the fact that what does council do in regard for the hockey people over there in supplying the power? Are you able to comment on that, Ms Kay?
Sure. So the lights for the hockey. So I think I've said generally speaking, council doesn't fund electricity charges for most groups. The hockey is a group that have, if they're playing night games, those lights, the lights for all of the bowlers and the croquet and hockey are a council cost. But they don't have, obviously the significant cost in electricity is the cost of heating the function room, and the hockey club don't have a function room.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
The project in Power is a nice, it's an update for council and a great workshop that we've been lucky to secure with the Corowa High School. So just for council to note.
Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Neagle. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
And 6.9, shearing of the rams and Urana Goanna sculptures. Urana Goanna sculpture has been placed on a rock in Urana, and the sculpture is underway, and a workshop has already been held with the school, so they are going to be a great addition to our art trail.
Can I move it, please, Councillor? Moved by Councillor Connolly, seconded by Councillor Waugh. Any questions or comments? Councillor Whitechurch.
Mr Mayor, and I assume Ms Kay, you've mentioned that there was $30,000 allocated in the budget for that project. Moving forward with arts and sculpture, obviously it's the flavour of the month at the moment with grants and those sorts of things. Our allocation for the following ensuing budget, and are we considering the silo trail at any point? And is that, I mean, every town that's got a silo wants it, but I think that we've got enough silos around on main roads we can investigate further. I'm just wondering whether next year's budget has been allocated or whether we can look at maybe the silo trail.
This public art thing was really kicked off from the Urana side, and so these two projects are sharing the rams, sharing the rams, and the Urana Savannah Goanna. We're both kicked off from that. In this current year's budget, there's an allocation of $40,000, with expectation that we'll at least get $20,000 in grants. So the more grants we can get, particularly if our contribution is only 10%, say, for some of these grants, we may well be able to stretch that the net allocation of 20 through to be 200,000, which means that not only can we continue the program of, particularly with the smaller communities, getting sculptures that are relevant to those individual communities, but then as well as that, the silos consideration, and then finally there'll be the link up with this is what I envisaged when we were applying for funds earlier, a link up with the Corowa, Howlong and Mulwala communities, because then once we've got those structures in sculptures or public art in place, you've got to look through Lockhart and the spirit of the land, and particularly the Wagga northern community. So you really got, you will really have a very strong
one at Bora Creek where the spraying was there, the little dog looking over the spraying, and sort of did an emotional feeling.
Yeah.
They're a good attraction.
Councillor Watson?
Just in light of that, Mr Mayor, would, probably to the appropriate member of staff, should we be looking at pricing and the next step on this silo thing? Obviously it's something we've talked about in workshops in the past. The town obviously talks about it, so that we are all close to the project ready with some idea of costing when the grants come up, so we can get something in place.
Absolutely. I couldn't support that enough. If we could find out what the cost, I know Lockhart are just about to start on a project over there, where they've sourced a bit of grant funding and funding in kind, so it'd be pretty exciting to start getting some of the silos of Federation Council painted up and looking good. Sorry, Ms. Carr.
Yeah, I was just going to say quickly, we could forward some proposals through, I think, the committee, and we'd like to work with Maria closely on before commissioning anything as well. But yeah, take on board the desire for the silo part. The only other art project that we have in budget this year too is the Enchanted Hut, which is we were successful with a $5,000 grant, and going fairly amazing at that on public exhibition at the moment, because we know it'll be a great attraction, great family attraction. So yeah.
Councillor Thomas?
The Girona was looking very comfortable on his rock at Urana. We've seen it last week. It looked great. And just this is more for your information, but in terms of pulling together the RAM sculpture, if you go onto Andrew's social media page, he's actually got it in stages on how it's progressing, and it's actually really interesting watching that progression and actually really watching what pieces of old farm equipment he's actually putting in to make this RAM. It's an interesting process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. If there's no further comments, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried.
Thank you. 6.11. No, sorry, 6.10. Of course. Rutherglen Unlocked, which is a new event, which we partnered with Destination Rutherglen, and that's this weekend. So that's the council's information.
Someone moved by Councillor Meaden, seconded by Councillor Law. Question or comments? Councillor Meaden.
Just a quick one, Mr Mayor. It's, we talk a lot about partnering with our neighbours across the river and in different councils in different states, and it's nice to see that finally there's a project that's been available to encompass a much broader region than just the Federation Council. So good partnership and commend the event.
Excellent. If there's no further, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried.
Local Government Week function and competition has concluded last week. So thank you to councillors for supporting that.
I'll have a move first, Councillor Thomas, and seconded by Councillor Meaden. Councillor Thomas, would you like to comment?
Oh yes. We actually, there's a couple of councillors who were able to go last week to Urana. It was a lovely luncheon put on, and it was hosted beautifully. I would like to congratulate all those children who submitted to the Federation Council Local Government Week. So they have a representation from both the Urana schools, the Oakland Central, Moala and Howler. And I actually have 4 of the submissions to read out, and I would like to give 4 of them out to the 4 attendees from this room. I want to go over to Councillor Neagle.
Yes.
And General Manager, Ms. Butler.
Yes.
Like to read one out?
Okay. Mayor for the day.
Oh, whichever one you like. Yes, this one's the mayor.
We've got it.
Yeah.
So it's still no good, right? Yeah.
And we want to give one.
I think that's mayor for the day. Sure.
Councillor Meagle, would you like to start the session?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. To support Councillor Thomas, it was really great to see all the entries that the children made. I thought the interaction between the children and the Mayor was excellent, and the really interesting part was the written piece on If I Was Mayor for the Day. And what these kids packed into one day of being Mayor was quite amazing. We had everything from silos to gardens to a lot to do about cleaning up rubbish, which was really interesting given the waste comments that we heard earlier. said if I was mayor for the day, I would organise an adventure garden, which included goats, ponies, birds, ducks, kangaroos, as well as a garden, plus fruit and vegetables, and a flower garden with so many varieties I can't even remember all the names, and which I thought was excellent. There was the Oaklands Oasis Cafe, and who hand out dollar animal food, so they could go and feed the animals at the garden, and also they were including an adventure playground. So we've got the garden, the playground, and Mr Mayor, you've been really busy, which is great. Flying Foxes, 40-metre slide, and they have gone to town on what the Mayor was going to do, and they have a meeting in the community hall, get everyone excited, and so that they could all contribute, and it would be he's even got an available paddock near the Oval, lots of tourists to come and do it. So it was a very, very good presentation.
And Councillor Nichol, who was that from?
That was from Janika Griffiths.
Janika Griffiths.
From Oakland Central School.
So we'll consider that done, not with Councillor Nichol. Councillor Thomas.
Okay, it takes a village. It takes a village to help our world. If I was the mayor for a day, I would convince the people of the country to prevent from using waste full of objects and to recycle anything you can. Please help us to make a start on cleaning up our world. There will be free food items for those who have help. We should try to stop driving our cars short distances, like driving your child to school or going to the local grocery store, because when you drive, I'm not really sure what that word is, maybe mum's car, are coming out of fumes, sorry. Maybe fumes are coming out of your car and we are going into our atmosphere. We call them greenhouse gases. Another form of greenhouse gas is from cutting down trees or rainforests releases greenhouse gases into the sky as well. It is also destroying homes of countless animals, most are now endangered, and with all the greenhouse gases putting holes in our ozone, and that's not good. We should stop it. For those who have to help save our world, it takes a village to help our world. And that was from Max, and he's age 12, and he was from St Francis at Urana.
So I've got one here. If I was a mayor for a day, I would make a difference by painting the concrete silos at Braincorp. My aim is to attract tourists to come to Oakland and see what the country is like. I think that it will be a good project for the community to do together and make something amazing. To do this project, the community will have to ask Braincorp if they're allowed to paint their silos. They will also have to fundraise money to do the project by organising raffles and asking local businesses to donate money, and that was from Elise Jane Nixon, also from Oakland Central School. That's another one we've been talking about a bit.
Okay, if I was the mayor for the day, I'd make a halfway house for all the poor and disadvantaged people and the people who are homeless. I would survey the town, and if it goes to plan, I would have the town meeting where we could discuss how to do it. We would have to build something new, or could we use something that is not currently running? After the meeting, I'd ask the council how we could get this idea running and how much it would cost, and ask for feedback. Is it a good idea? Is there money in the budget? Whatever. At a later date, I would survey the town again and ask if it made an impact on the town. The poor and disadvantaged and the homeless will be safe and have a sense of belonging. The people of Urana will feel happy because it is not only is the town bigger, it is a happier place. And that comes from Urana Public School, David Smith.
Interesting.
Okay, well, there's no further comment. Councillors?
Next report. Oh, so move
Yeah, if there's no further comment, I'll put it all in favour, against carried.
In very good hands. The 6.2, my last report is launching, recommending that we open the first round of this year's community grants program. Looking for that.
Okay, can we have a, thank you, Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? Councillor Wojcik.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, it's probably fitting that this pops up while I was proposed a question just recently regarding the lagoon area that was done up quite some time ago. I guess Mr Parker might have a better idea whether there's been any budgeted money spent down on the lagoon in the last 12 months and whether or not we were going to look at re-turfing the damaged area. A lot of the turf's come back from the floods, but there's still quite a bit of bare land, and it's it's not the picturesque thing it was when it first went in through, obviously, the floods. There's a community group that are obviously willing to partner, if they could get a grant, to buy turf and lay it back down in the bare areas. Just wondering whether that was something that was in the, and I don't expect an answer now, obviously, in the forward works before spring, or whether maybe this group puts in front of these grants and see if they can do it.
Excellent. Any further questions on that one? And we can get back to that one later. Councillor Whitechurch.
In support of Councillor Whitechurch, just a picturesque place, and it should be looked into, because we're coming across the reason it's such a lovely area, so it's got to be brought back to where it was before, and all those volunteers, all that hard work to get it to that level.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried. So, now I'll ask, thank you, Christy, and I'll ask the Director of Finance and Organisation
Thank you,
Development.
Mr Mayor and Councillors. First report, 7.1 is statutory report for the bank reconciliation at the end of July.
Moved by Councillor Regal, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Second report, 7.2, information, schedule of investments as at 31st of July.
Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Wales. Any questions or comments? I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
7.3, Councillors and Mayor, this was one of those ones where there were a couple of items missed out of our fees and charges. In regards, quickly I'll just mention it, in regards to motor vehicles, we do occasionally use that one, and it's no change from previous years. In regards to shopping trolleys and signs, there is an increase noted there, but from my knowledge, we haven't invoked that before. It's more or less to have a big stick there if we need it in the background. In regards to signs, in the Echo Deb area, we're working to reconsider some of the issues to do with our signage for our businesses through the Federation Council, and that will come back to Council in due time. So the recommendation is to note the report and that we place on exhibition, like we do for the budget, 28 days, seeking any comments on the fees set.
Okay, moved by Councillor Longline, seconded by Councillor Law. All in favour? Against, carried.
7.4, Councillors, connectivity issues. Councillors have been interested in this issue for, as well as our community, for some time. The state government opened the website, open to the public as well, and from our files and comments from various members of public, councillors, those are the 7 items that we link on the website as being areas of weak connectivity and mobile coverage. So that's for councillors' information.
So moved by Councillor Longline, seconded by Councillor Neal. All in favour? Against, carried.
In regards to 7.5, councillors, back in June, I put up a report that had a block of land at Howlong for sale, and as well as a small detail on the DP number that I've used in that report. We found subsequent to that in regards to the Coolock project, that a drainage easement was impacted on this land and reduced the ability for the purchaser to buy. And so what I'm suggesting there is that in consideration of that, we revised the pricing to be $90,300 plus GST.
Swimming Pool Committee, we had a brief meeting with some of the councillors and our youth council representatives to discuss the balance of the users for the group, and the list that we've provided there is the people nominated and accepted on the committee today. The only one that hasn't been determined is the Ageing Well Ambassador, and we have 2 nominations for that, for which you've been provided the information, the nomination forms. I guess we're requesting the council endorse the selection the committee has made to date, and to also make a selection for the Ageing Well representative.
Okay, can we have a movement, please? Moved by Councillor Whitechurch and seconded by Councillor Wales. Any comments, councillors, on that?
Councillor endorse the two divorce, one addition to the non-count of the other way.
So,
Just read this one.
yeah, okay. Okay, the first expression of interest was Stan John Romney.
Second one.
And the second one? Any comments, councillors? Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Both very worthy applicants. It's going to be fairly tough to decide. If I could make the recommendation of Ida Mentor, being a user of the pool as well as an Ageing Well Ambassador, I think meets the criteria of the committee. Put forward that, mate.
Thank you, Councillor Neagle. Councillor Law, would you like to make a comment?
No, I'd just like to endorse Councillor Neagle's remarks. I think that Mrs Mentor would be a very good selection.
Thank you. The mover was Councillor Whitechurch and Councillor Wales. Was there any other comments councillors want to make? And I'll see if the movers agree with that. No further comments on either of the, okay.
And the other makeup of it.
Yeah, and then of course, the rest of the other makeup of that committee, which we've all obviously read. Are you in favour, Councillor Whitechurch? All right, I'll put it councillors. I could say councillors on.
I mean, please make sure that we really appreciate Stan's time in putting his application in. And could there be a scenario where, you know, Stan, if Ida couldn't make it, could Stan, you know, an alternative, how we have with our committee? Would that work?
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit up with my fellow councillors, does that
But it's probably a little bit difficult
No, that's fine.
because of the other members, but I'd like to endorse your words. Stan is fantastic in all community groups actually he mentioned, so that's a real credit to him for putting his hand up and, so we'll move on with that one. I'll put it all in favour, against carried.
To be determined, we'll just put Scott.
I'm sorry.
She could, yeah.
Did I be fast?
No, we're right. In favour of it.
Okay, back to item 8.1, there's our standard building approvals report, complying with construction certificates approved under delegation.
Moved by Councillor Neagle, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against carried.
8.2 is our development application approved under delegated authority since the last ordinary council meeting. Again, it's for council information.
Moved by Councillor Neagle, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against carried.
Item 8.3 is the Howlong Industrial and Export Precinct Estate Project, land purchase and project management agreements. It's for the signing of 2 documents that are a part of the process we're required to undertake for the grant from the federal government. It's just seeking the authorisation of council to come and seal be affixed to both documents, and
You happy to move that, Councillor Longmire, and seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, Councillor Longley?
Yes, I'd like to see when the sale goes through, that the purchase of the use of the $1 be, the Mayor present that to the to Simon Staunton. I think in Main Street of Howlong would be a good spot where the press could take a shiny one.
Yep.
And it could be recorded by the press on the day.
That's fine. That'd be fine, Councillor Longley. Board of Morning
could consider engaging the local police force to educate the drivers on their behaviour to minimise any damage.
Thanks, through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, we've already engaged with the Highway Patrol to provide an education program in that precinct for us. And they've been undertaking so.
Nothing further, councillors, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried.
Just approve that recommendation.
Yeah, okay. Would someone like to move that recommendation for 8.5 to the fur? Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Warner. All in favour? Against, carried.
8.7 is the Federation Council Floodplain Management Committee report. Again, there's a recommendation there. It's fairly straightforward.
Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried.
And, sorry, Mr Mayor, one final report is the development application for a section 4.55 modification on the Highway Service Centre here in Hunter Avenue, Corowa. For a range of reasons, as explained there in the report, I've got a recommendation that the removal of condition 32 take place.
So moved.
I'll just, like to note that I've flagged it as urgent, and it's moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Yeah,
Yeah, it is a development application, so we'll need to show hands. All in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. Unanimous. Against, carried. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Gore. We've got a few minutes left, so we might move on to notice of motion, question without notice. I don't think there's no items. Reports from committees, local traffic committee. Minutes of the meeting of the local traffic committee held electronically on Tuesday the 31st of July. Any questions or comments on those, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
I did raise this in workshop, Mr. Gore, but I'll raise it to your attention again now. I find it interesting that the Riverland bus stop has appeared twice in 2 separate minutes, cited exactly the same. There's been no follow-up for that particular bus stop issue, and I'd really like some clarification about whose responsibility it is to follow this up, because it's appeared in the minutes for April, and now it's appeared in the same set of minutes and it hasn't changed. So I have contacted the bus company myself. There's 29 children getting on that bus at that particular, well actually we won't even call it a bus stop, because there's no designated bus stop there whatsoever, it's just a street. So, and that particular estate is growing exponentially, so we really need to look at it. And I actually personally feel that it actually isn't a cross-border issue. I know the buses do come out of Victoria to ferry children around both in New South Wales and in Victoria, but I actually really feel that it is an issue that needs to be taken up with council, RMS, and possibly the developer.
Sorry, do you mind if I get a move there in a second, please? Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Neal. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Peter, did you want to comment on that, or whatever?
Yeah, just through you, Mr Mayor. Look, I've noted that, and it's one of the things that hasn't changed. I do understand that. In part, a lot of that's due to workload, purely workload and availability of our road safety officer. So, as there is a reminder, we will get it resolved as soon as we possibly can.
Councillor Whitchurch.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, just in light of Councillor Thomas, I too had a look over the traffic committee, and I have real reservations about the traffic committee of its worth looking at our time on council. I don't think our staff, as Mr Gore had said, their workload is certainly, we know how heavy it is, but it's one of our 5 statutory committees that council has. They've had 3 reports come to council in the 12 months that we've been on council. The August meeting got reported to council in November or December, and in that December meeting was the Door Street awareness, and they were, the recommendation was that we realign it. They had measurements, they had the whole lot. Now that's 10 months ago. In that time we've since had public outcry, media attention, safety issues, the whole bit. Yet it was back in November at the August meeting, the November report, that was brought up. As Councillor Thomas said, there's been 4 or 5 other issues that are just repeated where we don't seem to be getting any further. Now the committee itself is obviously not following them up, and I think Councillor Wales brought up at the last meeting there was an electronic meeting had, and the minutes are nearly replicated from the meeting 3 months ago. Mr Gore, obviously you're one member of that committee, it's not chaired by yourself, but I'd really like to see some sort of investigation as to what's going on with that committee and why they're not meeting and taking on board what's happening at council, because also in none of those minutes in the last 12 months is there any mention of Mr Robson from Urana's petition or claim, whether it be futile or not. There was no mention of Mr Kennedy's continued mentions of the 50-kilometre reinvestigation taking in a 60k zone in Mulwala, and there was a couple of other issues that I know that have come through council, the the Cemetery Road from our presentation from Matthew Tull. I would have thought that they would have come to that committee, or at least been brought to them. They haven't been, so I'm just wondering the chair of that committee or why it's not getting there and not going back. And again, I'm not saying Mr Gore, because he's the only one.
Through you, Mr Mayor. The local traffic committee, its power or its duties under the RMS guidelines are around the statutory signage and I can't get a word right now. Things such as your stop signs, give way, operation of the road in broad terms. It's not for necessarily always specific sign issues. So things like vacuum tolls is not a traffic committee issue. Yeah. Door Street, the intersection itself is, but the balance of that isn't necessarily either. We've got a range of things we do with that the committee's done, and Councillor Wales been across it. It's bringing things to the fore that we investigate, we take time over to make sure we're going to come to the right outcomes. In terms of the speed reviews, I chose that up about 6 weeks ago, and we actually had an email back again about 3 or 4 weeks ago now regarding from RMS. The Mulwala speed review is underway, and it looks like they will reinstate a higher limit. They're not sure exactly what yet. The review at Howlong on the highway, Riverina Highway, on the east side of town, they're sitting with the Minister for approval. There's a review of Sturt Street South in Howlong, some bridges to move the 50k sign out. Again, that's sitting with RMS, are happening. Unfortunately, RMS in this region has one person that deals with it as well. As we've got about a tenth of the person who deals with it. It's unfortunate, but there is time lag around some of this, and I'd love to be able to move them faster, but unfortunately, sometimes we can't.
Thank you, Mr Gore.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr Gore, and I appreciate the restraints you're under with RMS and the governing bodies. Perhaps if that was going to go through the safety committee just to, as a progress step, that it could be forwarded on in the report, because I know that we all get hammered by some things that are brought to us and say, well, what are you doing, how come it hasn't been acted on? And some of these things have clearly come back in the last month that we could perhaps put some things to rest, or at least say we're working on it.
Just my thoughts are that electronically run meetings are easy to run because it's just a matter of pushing buttons, but I think if you're having an actual meeting where it's frontline personal approach of it, I think more things get thrashed out and get attended to. That's what I believe in an actual meeting taking place in a room.
Thank you, Councillor Austin.
Just through you, Mr Mayor, we had that discussion earlier on before Councillor Wales joined the committee. The big issue we're having was actually getting meeting dates and having people then turn up to them. Quite often we didn't see the local members' representative turn up. The police didn't always turn up. And similar with RMS, we just couldn't seem to get everybody to come here when needed. So the step back to electronic meeting, which is what RMS has allowed under their guidelines, was just a matter of ensuring we could at least get the issues out to people and dealt with in some sort of timely manner. Keep in mind, the local traffic committee is also, one of their duties is traffic management plans to review and accept those. If we wait for an actual meeting date, then the events of
members of this committee were together in the room when they had that electronic meeting, and probably helps more so that you can have that discussion you're looking for on your local issues, rather than you be individual somewhere else doing it.
Maybe the council might want to get a report back on the terms of reference and how it's working, and whether there's options there to do electronic, but then still have other ones as needed in person. Look at the contribution workshop.
Yeah. Councillor Whitechurch.
Yeah, in line with that, and thank you for the clarification with the electronic meeting. How far off, excuse me, are we being able to have video conference meetings for some of these subcommittees? I mean, they're happening now in a lot of places, but where's our technology sit? I don't know. You're home there.
Would someone like,
it's available now. Yeah, we have a portable unit, ready now, but we're installing a permanent unit in Manchester.
Perfect.
yes, Councillor Wiles, would you like to add to that, recommendation for the report to the workshop, to go to a workshop in relation to those matters? And Councillor Whitechurch, would you like to add to that recommendation also to have a refresh of that, that committee to look at?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I think Mr Gall will be able to convey the necessity of it.
We recommend that the local traffic committee's terms of reference be taken to the workshop and discussed at that point. Workshop, as well as some of the more progress updates through the workshop.
That'll be good.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I think that something along those lines would be good, because as we've sort of now found out that there's possibility that that 60-kilometre zone could be lifted, or 50 back to 60, or whatever it may be, that would not have been discussed. So I think, yes, it would certainly, most of these issues that come to traffic committees are normally at people's heart, you know, it's safety or something that's of a concern. So if we can keep that progress moving, you know, it's better.
Excellent. Is the mover and the seconder, who was Councillor Wiles and me, happy with that? Okay, I'll put it in. Councillor Wiles, would you want to?
I mean, just remember, in the police, when the police are required to attend, the person was allocated, like I say, they'd be on the roster for someone to attend anyhow, so there'd be always some attendance by the police anyhow.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's a very important issue. It's a very important traffic issue that came up, so it's got to be looked into and the best solution solved for this matter. It's a big issue.
Councillor Long, did you want to comment?
Yes, re the how long Looper pedestrian barrier. I believe that it's now actually by council that we're applying for a grant for that.
We will be following through that grant that Baz has identified in the report.
Okay, councillors, nothing further on all in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. Yes, would someone like to move to suspend in the TV or Councillor Long, seconded by Councillor Law? All in favour? Against, carried. Thank you.
We're going to go ahead with our citizenship.